So on this song, I have to say, in the pre-production phase of things, when we were talking about this particular song, Candace and I had a difference of opinion. We both seemed to be kind of firmly entrenched in what we thought about the form of this song, how to approach it, and in that she wanted to have the bass start the song and to have there be a big long bass solo, just bass and her voice. And she had her heart set on doing this with Christian McBride, who's a wonderful, great bass player, who friend of mine and someone whose playing I love. I really felt quite strongly that there was something antiquated about this way of approaching it. I'm not a huge fan of bass solos to begin with, I have to say, these days, because I feel that, and I'll probably get into trouble with a lot of jazz bass players there who, if they come to watch this, but everything has become more intensely abbreviated in our culture and in the world these days. And the idea of having a bass solo with very little, if nothing else, playing along with it is, for me, in the context of our time and our world, in itself sort of a bit self-indulgent. And that there were other times in past years where the world wasn't moving as fast as it does now. And this all sounds very esoteric, I know. You can even notice yourself if you go to a club, a jazz club, and there's a bass solo, see how many people start talking or go to the bathroom or go get a drink or something. And so I felt that there was another way to go here, and I'll try and articulate the sort of path of our discourse on it, because I really do think, this sounds a little bit like a homily, a disagreement where, if you're a producer, if you reach a point in a juncture in the proceedings where you just have a profound disagreement with the artist, I'm sort of adamant about the fact that it's a ticket to a better solution, almost always for me. And had a lot of people ask me the question, what do you do if you just can't agree upon something with the artist? The first thing that I can tell you not to do is to tell the artist that they should do it the way that you want, because that is the easiest way to create enmity between you and the artist, and also defeat the idea that perhaps it might be possible that you don't know, in your own mind, you don't know of a better solution. And so, to keep yourself open to arriving at something that is a hybrid idea is very important. Let me go ahead and play this track. we were able to do by throwing this back and forth and talking about it, we ended up still having the song sort of be centered around bass and voice, but there's much more tonal variation, there's much more thick and thin, contrast, undulation, sort of a thick and thin to the track than there would have been if it was just bass and voice through the whole track. The way that we came to that was very natural. We just sort of threw it back and forth rather than arguing about it or butting heads about it. And of course, when Christian came and we started working with him in the studio on it, he's a beautiful player, and he also kind of took the idea and finessed it in a way that made it work even better than what I thought it would. The other thing for me about this track is that this combination of instruments is a very traditional jazz situation, quartet with piano, bass, drums, and guitar. What I find when I listen to old jazz records, in certain ways, dates them, and when I thought of redoing this song, which is a beautiful song, but a song that's been done a lot, I thought, let's approach it where it's not such a dense fabric of people playing stuff, comping and playing ad-libs. And so, let's try and figure out a way where we can keep the architecture clear, concise, and so that her vocal is in command all the time, because she's a wonderful singer and she's really a great interpreter of lyric. So I worked with the guitar player on, when we first ran through it, it felt quite crowded in a very sort of typical way of how standards are played. And so I worked with him and we figured out a way where he could kind of center what he was doing around elongated melodic statements and lines that just kind of dovetailed in an irregular way around things, rather than putting rhythmic information in along with Candace doing the same thing. I think when it comes to jazz in the world that we live in, a lot of what can make something work in a fresh way is clarity of design. And so that's something that I always try to figure out a way to establish so that there's not a lot of crosstalk and busy stuff going on underneath a vocal. Because I think that it's, in our world, it's hard enough to stay focused on something without a lot of counter melody going on all the time. And so if something's going to be there, it really has to mean something and has to have a role structurally for me.